Did you know that the fear of public speaking consistently ranks as one of the top fears on earth? Often above the fears of heights, spiders, and even death. Meaning, people would rather be in the coffin than delivering the eulogy. Crazy, right? Well, after making over 400 public speeches, I've developed a foolproof system that took me from trembling backstage at my first event to now speaking on some of the biggest platforms in front of some of the biggest people. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what this 5-step system is and how you can use it to make your next public speech your absolute best. But before we get into that, we need to understand why humans fear public speaking. And it's all to do with the way your mind works. You see, here's the thing. What most people don't realize is that fear is not just in your mind. It's actually the brain's rewiring. Now, let's make sense of this. If we was to go back, let's say 100,000 years ago, let's say we were back in caveman days, being stared at by a group wasn't a networking opportunity, or it wasn't you on stage in front of an audience. It was literally a death sentence. It meant that you either messed up badly or you were staring in the eyes of a saber-toothed tiger. And that tiger was looking back at you like lunch. So when you step up on stage or you're speaking in a meeting and suddenly you feel your heart pounding, your mouth goes dry, and you get that lump in your throat, that's not a weakness, it's actually biology. So the brain is thousands of years old. It still acts as though we're in those caveman days. It hasn't quite updated for these modern times. So when your brain perceives something as a threat, like you standing on stage about to speak in front of an audience, that stress activates the flight or fight response. And back in those caveman days, when you was running from that saber-toothed tiger, believe me, that's when we needed it. We needed to trigger that response so we could survive. When we go into that flight or fight mode, you notice that our physiology changes. Our pupils start to widen so we could focus on the target. The blood around the body gets pumped into our arms and legs so we can get away from the danger. And this is why you feel so stressed, as though you want the floor to open up and swallow you when you're about to deliver a speech. But here's the good news. Just like how your phone updates its software, you can update your brain's ancient programming. And that's exactly what this system's about that I'm about to share with you. It's called the Speak system, and it rewires your brain's response to public speaking. So instead of triggering flight or fight, it triggers focus and flow. And funnily enough, everything I'm about to tell you happens before you even open your mouth on stage. Now, preparing for speeches are good. No matter how much you try to remember and memorize your script, soon as that event host or MC shares your bio and says your name to welcome you on stage, as you're about to stand in front of that audience, if you're nervous and you don't know what to do, all that preparation goes out the window. Anyway, let me show you how this system works. So the first step is S. But even though this next step is so important, I see 99% of speakers not do this. And because they haven't done this correctly, when they're on stage, they are trying to rush through their content and get off that stage. And what this shows for your audience is you're not prepared, you're nervous, you're scared, and what that does for you is ruin your credibility. I remember a time in my early career as a public speaker, I received a phone call, and on the phone call, this lady was so excited to book me to speak at her school. She wanted me to train all her teachers. Back then, my name had a buzz. I was in newspaper articles. I was doing some amazing work. And I thought to myself, yeah, of course I'll do it. So, we arranged a date, we arranged a time. I went down to the school to deliver this speech for these teachers, right? And because I've been speaking in schools, at this point I'd worked with hundreds of thousands of young people. I thought, you know what, this is going to be easy. It's going to be a walk in the park. I didn't do much preparation on the audience that I was talking to. So I was speaking, I was sharing my story, I was sharing some points that I thought that they wanted to hear. But this is the thing, right? As a speaker, it's not about you, it's about them. It's about your audience. So you need to deliver exactly what they want. So because I didn't do my research effectively, my presentation just wasn't landing. I seen people in the audience start talking with each other. People looked disengaged. I think I even saw one woman falling asleep. Now, as funny as that sounds and as embarrassed as I was, I knew that I just didn't study my audience. And that's what the first step is: study your audience. What do I mean by that? Make sure that you're doing the right research, you're asking the promoter or the event organizer the right questions. So, what you can do when you get booked for a speech, write up an email with questions to the event organizer just to make sure that you're in alignment and also that you're the right person for the event. Don't just take the event because you just want the money. Take the event because you know that you're going to make an impact. You can ask questions such as, what's the age of the audience? What's the pains of the audience? What are their desires? What kind of job role are they in? What's the theme for the event? And what message does that event organizer want you to get across the most? Having the answers to these questions will give you extreme confidence, help you prepare, and help you set that stage on fire and help you deliver your message in the right way. Studying your audience helps you have full confidence in your message, which will make your nerves drop massively. It's no longer, I hope they like me. You're now solving a problem that they have. And that moves us on to P, which is the next step. And this is a technique used by elite sports athletes. And to be honest, it's a technique used by most successful people. Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, let me explain how it works. Now, there was a research study done by a group of neuroscientists. They had a group of golfers and they split them into two, Group A and Group B. They took the golfers from Group A and took them on a golf range to practice a new swing. However, the golfers in Group B was gave instructions on how to visualize that new swing. So Group A had the chance to physically practice, and Group B was only allowed to imagine and visualize the same swing. Now, after a few months of practice, both groups met up to take and practice the swing on a golf range together. Group A, who was physically practicing on the golf range, took their shots. And by no surprise, they had great results. Now, remember, Group B didn't get the chance to physically practice this new swing. They was visualizing and imagining the swing with the instructions from the neuroscientists. When Group B stepped up to take their shots, even though they hadn't physically practiced the swing, they still was able to implement the swing, take the shot, and get similar results to Group A. This is how powerful the human mind is. The human mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined. Because Group B was able to visualize the shot, how it was taken, how they needed to adjust their body, because they visualized it so much every single day, when they took their shots, their body and their physiology adjusted in the way to take the perfect swing. So the next step is picture success. Weeks prior to you standing on stage, visualize every night, visualize you being on stage, getting a standing ovation, being confident, being comfortable, walking up and down that stage with authority, having an impact. Find a sound clip, a YouTube video of an audio of a crowd giving you a standing ovation, listening to the cheers. Do this over and over again before your event, because when you then decide to step up on stage and talk in front of that audience in real time, it will feel like you've been there 100 times before. Bringing us to the letter E. Now, this should be done way before a single audience member enters the venue. Yet, ironically, it might be the most forgotten step that I see amongst most speakers. Now, I remember when I got my TEDx, it was such a big thing for me because it was something that I always had on my vision board. But the way my TEDx had came to me gave me not much time to be prepared. So of course I jumped at the opportunity. Whether I felt prepared or not, it was almost a sink or swim moment, right? There was no way that I could let this opportunity pass. Instantly, even though it was a few weeks away, I was nervous. Thinking about it made my hands sweat. It made my heart beat fast. It made me go into that flight or fight response. But there was one thing that I'd done that absolutely calmed the level of my nerves. I got in touch with the event organizers and I asked, when will the venue be set up for the TED Talk event? They explained that they would be set up a few days before. So what I made sure that I'd done was I went to the venue. I stood in that red carpet days before the event and I immersed myself and engaged with the environment. I put myself in that red circle and visualized me delivering an amazing speech. I went there every day and got comfortable with the venue, with the red circled carpet until the actual event day came. Now, on the day of the event, just before I was about to go on stage, I felt nerves. I felt like I wanted to run away, but how could I, right? And as I could hear the event host share my bio as they welcomed me on stage, I had this lump in my throat. But soon as I walked on stage and I stood on that red carpet, it was as though my nerves had left me. Why? Because I had been in this space before. My brain, my neurological pathways remembered me being here days before. So because my brain and my body recognized standing in this circle, that brought down a lot of the nerves. So that is what E stands for. It stands for engage your environment. Before any speech or presentation that you do, to calm those nerves, to feel comfortable on the day, go to the venue, get used to that venue, go on stage, walk up and down that stage as though you was delivering your speech, and do this as many times as possible before you deliver your speech. I promise you, this will give you ultimate confidence when about to deliver your presentation. Now, on to letter A. This goes a layer deeper into step 1, and it's one of the easiest ways to instantly boost your confidence when speaking in front of big audiences. But for some reason, this is one that's most overlooked. Now, I remember a time when I was speaking at an event, and before I spoke on the event, I was mingling and networking with the audience. I introduced myself. I was letting people know I was one of the speakers. I was understanding what people's interests were, having great conversations that you would normally have if you was to meet somebody at a party or in a bar. Now, from watching most speakers, they want to be the authority. So it's very rare that you see speakers mingling with the audience before they speak. But when I was on stage and I actually delivered that presentation, it was almost like the audience really wanted to support me because I had spoke and introduced myself beforehand. And this actually was one of my best speeches. Knowing the audience that little bit better before I went on stage helped give me extreme confidence, because it was almost like I was speaking to friends. And that's what you want. You want to be confident, you want to be calm and collective, and you want to just deliver your authentic self, because that's the best way for us to get into that flow state, that peak state that high performers get in when they deliver their skill at the highest level. So this next point, the A, stands for audience alignment. Before you do your next speech, make sure you arrive early, mingle, network with the audience, show them who you are, what you're about, find out about them, make them feel special. And before you deliver that speech, I promise you, all those nerves that you had about to deliver in front of an audience that you don't know, all of those fears, that stress goes away. Now let's get into the last and final step, which takes us to K. And this step goes completely against some of the most popular public speaking advice you've heard online. Most people are going to say this next step is complete rubbish, but don't listen to them. What most speakers do is they write the content for their script with loads of bullet points, writing facts, stats, so they can remember their content. Or what speakers do majority of the time is try to remember their script word for word. So when they're on stage, they're not actually being present with the audience. They're in their own mind trying to remember what to say next. Now, I remember doing this when I delivered a TED Talk. Now, the TED Talk meant so much to me. I wanted to get it so perfect. I wrote my content and I practiced day and night. On the day of the event, I woke up, I felt nervous. I literally had butterflies in my belly. And in the car on the way to the event, I practiced my script over and over and over. Just before I was on stage, I was in the mirror practicing over and over. And what this done, instead of this putting me into a flow state, it actually put me into a stressful state. So there I am walking onto that red carpet in that round circle. There was an audience in front of me, but I couldn't see them because it was so dark. The only thing that I could see in front of me was the big flashlight in my face and the timer that was telling me the amount of time that I had to deliver this speech. So as soon as it was time for me to open my mouth and start my intro for my talk, I forgot everything. But I'm on TED Talk, right? This is no time to fold. This is no time for me to run away. I'm in front of a live active audience and I'm on a platform that could take me to the next level. So what did I have to do? I had to kick the script. I already knew my content. I just had to believe in myself. I relied on the structure to guide me. And as I was asking myself rhetorical questions such as, why is this important? What do I mean by this? How can this make an impact? These questions triggered the content out of me. And what I had to do was believe in that divine source of information that could come and flow through me. And because I was more flexible now, because I wasn't thinking about the script, I was able to flow, enjoy, relax, and get into that peak optimal state for me to deliver a great speech. So that's exactly what the next point is. K stands for kick the script. Stop writing long, lengthy scripts and trying to remember them, because when you're on stage and you're thinking about what to say next, you're not giving your presence to the audience. And your presence is the best gift that you could give them. When you start to remember word for word what that script is, you put yourself into foveal vision, which is a stressful state. So get comfortable with the structure of your talk. Remember key information. Ask yourself rhetorical questions that's going to trigger content, and just relax. Just believe in yourself and believe in that divine source. Believe in your ability, have confidence, and let it flow out of you instead of always trying to figure out what to say next. Now, am I saying that this system will completely reduce your fear of public speaking to zero? No. But if you implement it before every speech, I can guarantee that your anxiety would just be a tiny fraction of what it once was. But the truth is, there's way more you need to understand if you ever want to learn how to become an impactful speaker. So watch this next video where I've condensed my biggest lessons from 9 years of public speaking into a single video so you can become a more impactful and influential speaker.